Hey guys, what's going on? Shooting us our video today. We finished Jesus 101. So we're talking about the New Testament. It is going to be, if everything goes as planned, a big series. But the reason I want us to do it is the Bible is the most important thing you can read. It's the most important thing you can plug into ever. And I want that to be emphasized in what we do. And so I don't want you to just listen to me. I want you to love the Word of God, to love the God of the Word of God. And so I want to spend weeks on weeks, hopefully, pointing you that direction. So what we're going to do is I'm going to shoot little videos about a book, and then the next video the next day probably will be about will be the first chapter of that book, and I'm hoping you'll hear that first chapter in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, all the way down the line, and then you'll finish reading that book at some point. You'll get a taste for the Word of God in Matthew or in Romans or in 2 Corinthians or something, and you will want it, and you'll go in and look. I'll try to put some links below in the show notes that'll help you understand and get to it. If everything goes according to plan, we'll post a link to the ESV website where you can read these things for free. We'll even send you a link to a site called Bible Project, and they make the Bible super understandable, and even do little kind of like cartoons to help understand. It's good stuff. Hopefully you'll check that out. And so today's is Matthew. And Matthew's the first book of the New Testament. And the reason Matthew's the first book of the New Testament is it's first of 4 books that deal exclusively, pinpointedly with Jesus Christ. It's one of the Gospels. And the 4 books that include the Gospels are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And like I said, they center around Jesus. The reason Matthew comes first isn't because Matthew was actually written first. Mark was written first, we believe. But Matthew connects best with the Old Testament. It's written in a very Jewish perspective, and so the layout of the New Testament has Matthew first. And what Matthew emphasizes in his story of Jesus is that Jesus is the Messiah that has come. So Ephesians will lay out really clearly, at least in the beginning, that all of time, God has orchestrated history itself to save His people, to save those who would call Him Lord and come to Him. And what the Old Testament is the Bible saying God's doing something, He's going to do something, God's doing something. And so Matthew comes along and says that moment is here. The center point by which God has orchestrated all of history, it happened, it's come, it's Jesus. He is the Messiah. And so that's what Matthew lands on. Is he tells us the story of Jesus with the perspective of, for the last 1,500 plus years, we've been looking for something, guys. We've been needing something. We know God has promised us something, and that something is here, and it's Himself. It's God in the flesh. It's the Son, Jesus Christ, come to save and redeem. The book of Matthew is an amazing book. Not just because it's in the Bible, although that's awesome. Not just because it's centrally about Jesus, although that's very awesome. The reason that, the emphasis rather of Matthew is that Jesus is the center point of history that the Old Testament has been talking about. I encourage you guys, get into Matthew, check it out. Love you guys.